Hello and welcome to The Agenda on Labour Social with me, Graham Hughes, and with Phil Morehouse.
Hello.
A different bias. How you doing, Phil?
I'm all right, yes.
Good. Hello to everyone in the chat. We've got Joe Lefty Boater in the chat. We've got Emma Price. We've got Rob is in the chat, number 3. Benjamin. We've got Jenny in there as well. And Ivan. Hi, Ivan. Who I'm very fond of this week. So, Phil, the Tories have responded to Labour's first steps yesterday, and they've responded by basically, instead of laying out what they're going to do, they've just said, oh yeah, Labour are going to be awful, they're going to raise your taxes.
Yeah.
See, the lack of self-awareness at the fact that they've raised our taxes to the highest level they've ever been on this island.
Well, this is it. I mean, yesterday, who was it now? Was it even, it might have been even Richard Holden, the party chair. I can't remember. They had some Tory on, and they were discussing it. And they were it was Andrew Marr, and he basically said, "Do you have a problem with any of these steps?" Because he was saying you don't seem to have a problem with them. You're just, so, and that's what they are, by the way. Actually, what I've got in my background is, after they did the big launch in Essex, they sent the shadow cabinet far and wide. So Bridget Phillipson, the shadow education secretary, came our way. So I went to our local event. So I got one of the cards. You got a flag as well, but the VCAM doesn't like the flag. So I actually got told, would you mind not sticking it there, please? Because they wanted
sticking
to
it where did you stick it? What?
Well, you won't be happy about this, because they wanted us obviously there for photos, and I'm at the back. So if I show you this is me. I'm at the back, right? So that's obviously not me, but that's from my position. Yeah. So I thought, because it was threatening to rain all day, I had a hat, so I stuck it in my hat, and the photographer came up to me and says, "Do you mind holding it, please?" So I thought, all right, fine. It has to be very on brand, you see. They can't have anyone going rogue in the photos.
Going rogue with your crazy hat.
So they didn't see my flag in the end, because I'm at the back. I said, okay, I could hold it. You won't see it, but I can hold it. But, these steps, and they are, I keep pointing out to people, this isn't Labour's blueprint for their first parliament. What they've done is they've picked out the 6 of the many policies they have, and they've found out which ones do their target swing voters, which ones most appeal to their target swing voters. And that's all it is. Yeah. I've had people going, oh, what about the New Deal? It's like, okay, you didn't watch the launch. I get that. Most people aren't going to actually watch the launch. The video's there. If you want to look up Labour's election campaign launch Essex, look it up on YouTube. There's an hour and a half of the entire thing. It starts off with Angela Rayner talking about the Workers' New Deal. It's not in these, because these are just designed to be what attract most to people. I thought, if even Marina Purkis is at it, she's going, oh, what about water companies? It's like, yeah. And I linked her to, well, did I? I told her anyway. They had policies. They have policies on that. It's on their website.
Yeah.
This is just the 6 things that appeal to swing voters. But Jeremy Hunt today, this is what you're alluding to, he's gone out and he's on this podium. It's like, Labour, it's all about Labour. It's like, mate, have you got nothing to say about your own party? You're now coming out talking about Labour. But anyway, he reckons he's put Labour's spending plans to independent Treasury officials, and they've said, oh, no, it's going to cost a fortune. It's like, no, because he hasn't done that, by the way, because Labour haven't given him their spending plans. But they're basically trying to go, oh, they're going to put up your taxes. They're going to put up taxes, And it's like, so in this card, which presumably people will be getting through their letterbox at some point over the summer.
Yeah.
I have now. It's quite funny because it actually says in here, yeah, we're going to put up taxes. Let me show you where they're going to put up taxes. Because what it is, it's got all those 6 steps. And then on the back, it's got some details. So if we look at some of the details, there's 3 of them where it says, yeah, we're putting up taxes. They're putting up taxes by cracking down on tax avoidance and non-dom loopholes. So taxes on the wealthy tax dodgers there. So that's a tax that's going up. Another one, windfall tax on oil and gas giants. So they're going to be paying higher taxes. And the other one on ending tax breaks for private schools. So they're going to be paying higher taxes.
I like that one.
So Labour are not hiding the fact that they're putting taxes up. They're just not putting taxes up on ordinary people.
Just a bit of housekeeping here. I have no idea why this is going out at 360p. I have no clue at all. In OBS, it says it's going out in 4K, but I'm watching it on the studio here on YouTube. It's going out on 360. I don't know why it's doing that. Hopefully, we'll have that sorted this evening when we do the Labour social. But if you can't read the chat, let's dip in a little bit. Tom was mentioning the wonderful response from Carol Vorderman to Jeremy Hunt's post on Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days, and this is phenomenal. So Jeremy Hunt posts this thing an hour ago. It says Labour will cost you £2,094 per year in taxes. Same old Labour, unfunded spending that will mean tax rises for everyone. And Carol Vorderman has responded. So Chancellor of the Exchequer, with the highest tax burden since World War II, has no policies left in his tank and shoots for Project Fear. You do realise that nothing works, that we see you handling contracts to your associates and donors like a tub of sweeteners, and your cruelty. Just go now, which I heartily agree with. Okay. Other people in the chat here are saying they've got 1085.
Yeah, it's fine for me.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Not a problem for me.
Well, someone said in the chat that it was like 360, and I was like, oh, God. And then I checked, and maybe the preview that you get on YouTube Studio is 360. Anyway, technical stuff. No one cares. Big shout out to Johan out there saying, see, Phil agrees with me. More taxes for the super rich, indeed. Sean is in there, and Vendetta and Aidan is also in there. And Evil Ginger is in there. I like having an Evil Ginger. And Murphy is saying, Hunt still committing to abolishing national insurance, but won't say how they'll pay for it, but only how they won't pay for it. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Everyone else is getting Inglorious 4K, so don't have to worry about the technical things. Thanks everyone. And Daniel saying, am I the only one with a freeze? God.
I think so, yes.
Yes, might be. I don't know. And we also got Christine Cash watching from Atlanta, Georgia, from across the pond. Hey, how you doing? So yeah, this is... I don't know. It seems very on brand for this iteration of the Tory party to be like the way that they respond to Labour saying we're going to sort things out is them just saying, well, no, they won't, rather than saying, no, we're going to sort it out better, or coming up with better ideas, or...
Well, they haven't got anything to do. Like at the start of the week, the very start of the week, so Rishi Sunak's trying to collect, why are we holding an election? Why aren't you holding an election? Oh, we've got so much to do, so much to do. You know what the government were doing? At the start of the week, they've been doing some research in our interest, in the national interest.
Yeah.
Penny Mordaunt, and this is a huge relief to me, I don't know about you. Penny Mordaunt was able to announce to MPs that actually the world isn't being secretly run by shape-changing lizards. She's actually, that's the leader of the House. So that's the serious work the government are getting on with. They're going out debunking...
Hang on, stop, Phil. What happened? Tell me more. What?
So I'm going to have to find the bloody thing now.
This actually...
She's basically... The important work of government is debunking conspiracy theories, most of which come from the Tory party in the first place. I don't know how quickly I'll be able to find it now. There's so much happened. I found
this in Parliament.
She's not said it in Parliament. She sent it out as like a circular to MPs.
Oh, right, okay. She saw them in Parliament and said, it's very important that we put on the record for all of eternity on Hansard.
It's a circular that went round to MPs, debunking various conspiracy theories, including, she's saying, false claims about the existence of a paedophile ring run by a global elite who may be shape-shifting reptilians. She's saying this is not the case.
And that had to be sent out to MPs.
To MPs, yeah.
Right, okay.
I mean, all sorts in there as well. The 5G claims, the Great Replacement claims, the 15-minute cities claims. I mean, the government are at least officially saying this is all bollocks.
15 city minutes. 15-minute cities are one of the most ridiculous things for these weirdos to get their knickers in a twist about.
Yeah.
I could see how they get upset if the moon landings were actually faked, which they were. But I can see, why that would irk them, because they're an idiot and basically they want everyone else to be an idiot as well. And it really upsets them that there are people who are so clever they could get humans to the moon. It makes them feel awful about themselves. So the idea that they didn't really do that, I can see why that's appealing. But the 15-minute city thing, it just blows my mind. It's like, what's the problem? I don't want to have to be 15 minutes for my doctor's surgery or the shops or... Okay.
Yeah.
Go live in the
That's what she said. She said 15-minute cities is an urban design term for having all amenities available within a 15-minute walk of homes. False claims that measures to tackle climate change, including 15-minute cities, are a pretense to strip people of civil liberties and limit movement, is a conspiracy theory.
Who put that? Did Penny Mordaunt put that in an email?
She sent, I don't know whether it's an email, it just says a document.
Okay.
She's just basically pointing out various, it's supposed to be, these are conspiracy theories, please do not jump on these bandwagons. It doesn't say whether it's just to Tory MPs or all MPs. Right. But nonetheless, that is the important job of government. Apparently, they've got such a big list of things to do to crack on with that they can find time to actually, in all seriousness, say shape-changing lizards are not actually ruling the planet.
Indeed, we got two of the same joke from Johan and from Benjamin, both making the joke about the moon landings were faked by Stanley Kubrick, but he insisted on filming on location. Yes, because he's very into his art. We can go to the moon, but Hunt can't stop being a Hunt. Absolutely. That's from Chaos Lord Pug. Hello, Chaos. How you doing? And David Walker pointing out, Sunak's only plan is making himself richer. And we discussed this, haven't we? What should we talk about when we think the election's going to be?
I don't know.
Because I'm thinking
no time makes sense. Like Robert Peston's now putting across this idea, November the 14th, what they've got penciled in. I don't think they've got any, well, they might have something penciled in, I'm sure they do. But I don't think they've got any idea themselves. They're reacting. They're waiting for a miracle to happen. They're just waiting for the polls to narrow. It may well be that November the 14th is the latest they dare go, if there's no signs that doing it earlier makes sense. And, and you can understand the appeal for that, because that would sort of coincide with his... he could make his conference speech about it. Yeah, that would sort of tie in, I guess. But he can't screw over Labour's conference this year by announcing it then, because the Conservative conference takes place the week after Labour's this year. Yeah. So he either screws both of them over or neither of them.
I don't think he's going to do it in October for that reason.
So, it's a big money making thing. So I think there is a good chance that the conferences will go ahead, but I can absolutely see him, because he can't. What's his conference speech going to be about if it's not the election? So I can see it. I can see mid-November making sense, but I don't necessarily think it's set in stone. I think that's probably why it's just bandying about, because it makes sense. Yeah. And Nigel Farage will be out of the country, so they don't have to worry about him. During the whole campaign, he'll be in America, sucking on the teat of Uncle Daddy Trump.
Oh God, that's a horrible mental image of just putting everyone's head there.
So, but they will. So they fear Farage. Farage has already basically said he prioritises America over Britain. So that's where he'll be.
Well, so does Rishi Sunak. It is forever home, isn't it?
Yeah.
While he was Chancellor of the Exchequer, he still has his green
card.
Well,
I was noting video on mine that yesterday Rishi Sunak, he was on Loose Women, and he was saying they were asking him if he's going to stick around even if he loses. He said, "Oh yeah, I love being an MP. Yeah, he'll be gone." It'd be like David Cameron said the same thing. He said after the Brexit referendum,
if he lost, he'll stick around.
And then he went to go and live in a shed. This time, Sunak's going to do the same thing. His shed will be a Californian beach surf shack, but same principle.
Yeah, Jesus. Gallifrey and Wren is saying, Farage will be out quick. Change the locks. And Johan saying the craziest thing about the moon landings, in my opinion, is that they had to use at least a quarter of the computer's power to convert metric to US, customary for the astronauts. Whoa, I didn't know that. That's insane. They had to convert. Oh, so stupid. Kubrick's last film had 24 minutes cut out. Eyes Wide Shut. He died before it was edited. I know. I thought he finished the edit before he decided that was what he wanted. And obviously, he was famous for taking lots and lots and lots and lots of takes and deciding afterwards which one he was going to use. Nick saying early summer is a bad time to move to Santa Monica. June gloom is a thing there. Better weather later in the year.
I can actually believe he won't go straight to California after the election because his kids will be at school, and I'm quite prepared to believe he cares about his kids. So he's not going to move them partway through the school year. But he will not stick around as an MP.
No, I doubt he will. I very much doubt he will.
So as I say, we could take the choice. We could, you know, if we want to help him out, rather than put him in a difficult position, people in Richmond could just tactically vote against him, and then he won't win his seat, and then he doesn't have to be held to his promise. Yeah. Everyone wins.
Yeah.
We get, for the first time in history, a sitting prime minister loses their seat in an election.
Yeah. So you were talking about the 6 steps. I mean, do you think it was a good idea, him like branding it My First Steps?
Yes. And the way I say that is not because it makes sense to me.
Okay.
Because it does sound a bit ridiculous to me, I have to confess. The reason I'll say that is because they have been researching their key target voters for a long time now. And that's what this is based on. It's not reactive. They'll have spent a long time doing this. They know it will work. They know it will work. And you know, someone said to me, well, how can you be so sure, Phil? And I said, look, this is a party. And it's not just that they're stupidly ahead in the polls, and they have been for a long time. When you look at the details, which most people don't, but when you look at the details of the polls, it's not just that they have this large national poll lead. It's that if you look at all of their target voters and target areas, that's where they've got the biggest swings towards them. So a party that can do that is being incredibly efficient with its vote, and a party that does that is on top of its data analysis, absolutely on top of it. So this doesn't matter how. It does seem a bit silly to me, but it doesn't matter how silly it is to me, or how odd that they've strayed from the sacrosanct 5. Everything's got to be a 5-point plan in politics. This is 6. It's like, bloody hell, mate.
And then there were 6.
20% extra to remember. Psychologists are tearing their hair out.
It's like when the 5 nations became the 6 nations and everyone lost their shit.
Yeah, I remember that. I do remember that. I was at university at the time. I wasn't in favour of it myself at the time, but I'm a convert now.
Changed your mind? No way.
It's only because
you're not allowed to change your mind, Phil. You flip flopper.
Italy just kept getting their asses kicked. The only thing going in Italy's favour at the time, and I've forgotten his name, I'm really sorry, but I think he might have been the captain, but he was absolutely deadly with his boot. He was scoring so many drop goals. It was the only thing keeping Italy in the games, but they still kept losing. But over time, they have got better. The competition has made Italy a better country. So I go, fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Can't argue with that. But yeah, so there's the target that. Sorry, let me spit this out. The target demographic that this is for isn't us, is it? It's not for me and you. But every time there's something about Labour, and I notice this on Twitter a lot. I know Twitter is a bloody cesspool now. But there was a vote, I think yesterday, on whether they should throw the executives of these water companies in jail. There was an amendment put in by the Lib Dems, and Labour abstained on it. And loads of people on Twitter are like, oh my God, I can't believe Labour abstained. What's the point of Labour? Why are they even doing this? And I read it and I thought, what's the story behind this? There must have been a reason for that.
There will be a reason. You know, I will offer one or two, because I don't know myself. There's one of two things. First of all, and this happens all the time, if ever you see a vote on any motion put forward by an opposition party or an opposition MP, and if it gets, you know, if their own party votes for it and then no one else does, often it could just be a bit of a show. It might be that you read into it, oh, this is a bill to criminalise some of the behaviour that's going on. Well, this is good, isn't it? It may be that the bill doesn't do, or this in this case is an amendment, that the amendment doesn't actually do that.
Well,
I don't know. I've not read it, and if I had, you know what? I'm not a legal expert. But the other possible. Go on.
Okay. No, it was good. What's been said is exactly that it didn't go far enough. And Labour have actually stated it's on their website that they want the executives, not just of all of water companies, but any public sort of companies like that who continually break the law in the way that the water companies have been doing, in a way that endangers the public, they will go to jail.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'll post a link in the chat here. This is Labour's actual, it's on their website. So when I saw like Marina Perkins go, oh, why Labour do it? Why are they doing this? It's like, they are doing it. It says here, Labour's policies include, this isn't forgotten the words. Doesn't matter. It's not everything. It's not exclude, but this is some of the ones: giving the water regulator powers to block the payment of any bonuses until water bosses have cleaned up their filth. That's their words. I'm quoting from Labour's website here. We don't need the dither and delay of a consultation. We need immediate action. Second, water bosses who oversee repeated law breaking will face criminal charges. Brilliant. Third, ending self-monitoring and forcing all companies to monitor every single water outlet under independent supervision, so companies can no longer cover up illegal sewage dumping. And fourth, introducing severe and automatic fines that water companies cannot afford to ignore for illegal sewage discharges. In other words, they're going to make it more expensive to dump than it is to treat it.
Yeah, because at the moment, it is way cheaper to dump, get away with it most of the time. But if you don't get away with it and pay the fine costs a lot less than having to treat the sewage.
Yeah, S-Fax has just said exhaustive list, Phil. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. Ukrainians teaching me how to do English. And that's what I get. I mean, when it's like, I can get ordinary members of the public looking at this and going, oh, is this their manifesto? No, it's not. But when you've got supposedly serious commentators, even some that, you would think are sort of on our side. I know not everyone has to be on Labour's, has to be a Labour supporter to be on our side. But, when you've got serious commentators who are going, oh, what about this or what about that? It's like, yeah, it's there. It's going to be in the manifesto. It's on their website. I cannot get across anyone who pretends to be a serious political commentator and is unaware of a party's policies when they've put them on their website. I can get it
so what about the argument that it's on their website? So why didn't they vote for this amendment?
Because as I say, there's one of two reasons. First of all, it could be, like you're saying there, it could be because they've already got their own policy for it. That's what's going to be law when they're in government. Yes. And the second reason is maybe they just wanted a cup of tea, because do you know what? If every single Labour MP had voted for it, it still would have lost.
Well, that's another thing as well. It's a futile endeavour. It's tilting at windmills, isn't it? When you don't have a majority to vote on this stuff. And it's not a free.
It would be different if there was some. If it would be different if there were some Tory MPs that you thought you could get on side, a bit like the other day with that amendment on how to deal with MPs that were facing allegations of sexual assault.
That was a free vote, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was a free vote.
Yeah.
But this one, it's if Labour MPs had voted for it, it would have still been the same result.
Yeah.
Only they'd have not been able to have a piss or a beer or whatever they wanted.
Yeah. Spixie Cat says, who is on Labour's side in the mainstream media? Very, very.
There's the Mirror. That's it. You've got the Mirror. I think that's in England. I think in Scotland, there's maybe a couple that are sort of pro-Labour as well. But in terms of like English media, you have got the Mirror, and that is it. That is all there is to it. Not that I'm suggesting there should be any. News outlets shouldn't be on any party side.
Well, that's true, isn't it? Like, everyone whinges on it. The BBC is biased in any way, and yet, you've got GBBs out there going bananas for reform and the Tories. Yeah. Did you see they published the amount of money that they've given to MPs over the last couple of years, and it was something like 10-1. Compared with how much they get, it was like 100-1 actually. Compared with how much they gave to Tory MPs, which was in the region of hundreds of thousands of pounds, and what they gave Labour MPs, which is in the realms of about £1,000 all in.
To be fair, Labour MPs aren't really appearing on GB News, are they?
I know. Well, I mean, it just goes to show though how much they are slanted
There was a bit of
towards
a
not being impartial.
Brexit bust up though on GBGs. I'm doing that in my second video today. Jacob Rees-Mogg and Ben Habib.
Oh.
Oh yeah,
I
Ben
missed
Habib
this.
going because Jacob Rees-Mogg's trying to say, look, we need to come together, Reform UK. We're just going to hand Labour a victory on a plate, which isn't true. If Reform UK don't stand, Labour still win, but it will cost the Tories extra seats if Reform UK stand. But Ben Habib's there going, Jacob, mate, you're me Brexit bro, bruv, but you're tripping if you think we're just going to stand aside, because your party's not keeping its promises, bruv. And that was it wasn't his exact words, but that was essentially what he was saying. And that's a danger for the Conservatives because that is true. I was just doing this for this video, right? Let me try and find it again. On the Conservatives Party manifesto. So I'm not going to go through the whole manifesto, but on the first, not the front page, but the first page, my guarantee. So the Conservatives themselves under Boris Johnson picked out what they thought were their keystone promises, right? Keynote promises, I suppose. And I've gone down them. Every single one has been broken. Not just a few, every single one. And these are the ones they picked out as these are the ones, rock solid guarantees we're definitely going. Actually, no, there's one they did technically keep, but there's a caveat. So if I go down, extra funding for the NS, 50,000 more nurses, 50 million more GP surgery appointments a year. No. 20,000 more police. Yeah, but most of them are drug dealers. But here's a good one. Tougher sentences for criminals. We're releasing them months early, 7 months early, because we run out of room in prisons. Australian-style points-based system to control immigration, record immigration levels. Millions more invested every week in science schools, apprenticeships and infrastructure while controlling debt. Well, education's on its arse. The reason why Labour have made one of their 6 promises recruit 6,500 teachers, remember, is because key swing voters, that they've done their research that appeals to them. And that's because they know that their local schools and colleges don't have enough staff.
Yeah.
And they used to, and they don't anymore. And as for controlling debt, behave yourself. Reaching net zero by 2050. Now, not only have they scaled back on those plans, but there's Tory MPs openly hostile to those plans.
They want
to
stop net zero. Andrea Jenkins, she's like, that's one of her proposals. On her re-election,
her common sense manifesto
thing that she's
put
out
sense manifesto
doesn't have the word conservative or the Conservative tree logo anywhere on it.
No,
it says everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then the last one. Now, technically, they've kept this one, I think, but at the same time, it does speak to another failure. We will not raise the rate of income tax, VAT, or national insurance, and it's like they have been raised as a result of fiscal drag, but technically they haven't raised the rate. But we do know that the rate of tax is the highest it's ever been. So, and that is widely known. So it's still, even though technically they kept that one, it still speaks to a wider failure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's quite impressive that you write a manifesto of promises and then you pick out the ones, and note the new hospitals aren't in this list. They were in the manifesto, but they're not in this list because Boris Johnson knew he weren't going to do those. So he's picked out the ones that he thought, oh yeah, well, we will do these ones. None of them, really, apart from that last one. But even then, there's a wider failure to it. Because the last one is a bit like, I'm not going to punch you in the face, and then you shoot them in the belly. And it's like, well, I didn't punch you in the face. And it's like, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
So that line from Ben Habib, you don't keep your promises, and that will work.
Yeah.
It's all right. Because that's what the Conservatives are trying to do to Labour now. They're trying to say, but they won't keep their promises. They won't do what they say.
Yeah.
Because they can't actually argue with these ones, because these are crowd pleasing. And yet they are provably not keeping their promises. So it's like Labour might not keep their promises, but you definitely won't.
Yeah. And also, I mean, the one that they always love to trot out is the UK GDP, saying, it's always lower at the end of a Labour government. When the reality is that, when Labour left in 2010, in 1997, I'll tell you exactly what it was. In 1997, when Labour got in, it was 1.561 trillion. When Labour left in 2010, it was 2.664 trillion. And it had reached a peak of 3 trillion a couple of years earlier. And now, so it was on. I'll tell you exactly. So in 2007, it was on 3.091 trillion, and it this last year, 2023, it was 3.089 trillion. So it's slightly less in 2023 than it was literally 17 years earlier.
Yeah.
Or 16 years earlier, I suppose, for last year. My God. Like, and they say this all the time whenever they're being interviewed on TV. Or well, Labour always leave the economy in a worse state. And I'm like, that is absolutely demonstrably false. They doubled the economy in the time that they were in office last time. Yurosh, thank you very much for the super chat. First super chat of the show. Thank you. Would Phil be tempted to be part of the 6,500 teachers again?
Not unless this went wrong. Apart from anything else, I've been mostly talking about schools. I was never very good in schools. I was always better in colleges.
You mean like sixth form colleges?
Yeah.
Because then everyone
FE colleges are all right as well. The problem with FE colleges is the pay and the conditions are way worse. But in terms of the work, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the pay and conditions are shit in FE colleges compared to sixth form colleges.
Well, I mean, there's the thing as well. If you sort of, I do feel sorry for secondary school teachers in a way, because you're not just imparting your wisdom about different topics, different subjects. You're also like the part-time carer for these kids.
Oh, there's everything in there. It's the right mess.
Social worker, parents, confidants,
zookeeper,
yeah. Depends which school you're teaching in, Phil.
Yeah.
You want to get into one of those posh private schools. I hear the children there are very well behaved.
No, I knew somewhat. When I was quite a young teacher and I did my first job at an FE college, there was someone there who taught IT part-time, and he also taught part-time in a private school. He said they were like baboons. So I don't know that's always true.
Boris Johnson, Jonathan Gullis.
He wasn't teaching at Eton. He may have been teaching at the sort of school Gullis went to. I don't know.
One angry pagan says, "Sorry, I'm late." To which Michael replies, "An angry pagan is never late, nor is he early. He arrives exactly when he means to." Which we appreciate the Gandalf reference there. Gandalf Greyhound, named after me, obvs. Ivan says, "The contempt for the public by the Tories is off the scale." That's it, isn't it? I think that's the way that they have to be described, as like the sneering Tories. They're always sneering at everyone because they want to put out this idea that everyone who's not all Brexity and racist and bigoted and horrible is part of the metropolitan elite. And that winds me up, because like coming from Liverpool and hearing someone like Cummings going on about the metropolitan elite, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You went to the most expensive school in Durham.
Yeah.
I've got to get away from it. Anyway, can we talk about his party?
He's part of the Moscow elite, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Don't know what he did for a few years in the 90s, but I know he was in Russia. Let's talk about it. So Cummings was in the news this week because he's going to launch his new party, which is called the Placeholder Party. I think. Something like that. Because he hasn't thought of a name for it yet. But he's released this kind of weird manifesto with like 24 points on it that he wants to... He basically, his idea is that the Tories get destroyed at the next election, and then his party is going to be the one that takes over. But looking at his list of things that he wants to do, it's going to be not just more of the same, but more of the awful things that we already hate the Tories for doing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he's going to try and create this thing without the backing that Reform UK have got, and without the charisma as well. It just seems to be another Alex Salmond play. Alex Salmond had to make his own party because he decided he didn't like being irrelevant anymore, and there was no way back in the SNP, so he made his own party. Dominic Cummings, the same thing. He thought, he'd got his monkey Boris Johnson into power, and that's it. He thought he would be the power behind the throne. He'd be able to like reform the civil service, and he would be Grima Wormtongue to Boris's Theoden. That's what he thought.
Yes.
And unfortunately, he forgot that where it falls down is Theoden didn't have a wife who was into environmental rights and stuff. So Boris Johnson's wife, Princess Nut, as he called her, usurped him. and had him unceremoniously booted out of Downing Street. So he's been licking his wounds, doing his substacks and stuff like that, hasn't he?
Yes.
And he's obviously decided that no one's paying attention to it. People paid attention to him a little bit last year when he had things to say at the COVID inquiry.
He's thoroughly unlikable. There's just nothing about him. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's just a horrible, horrible person. He's a horrible little posh, jumped up dickhead who thinks that the world revolves around his massive head, and he thinks that he's right about everything. And he's one of these infuriating people. It's like, you know, when you meet someone who thinks they are absolutely beautiful and they're just the absolute bee's knees, and you see them and you go, "You're not all that." He's a bit like that when it comes to intelligence. He goes on and on to everyone who'll listen, like how intelligent he is. But then, if you actually look at what he says, it's really stupid. Like, he's not that clever. He just thinks he is.
You know, I thought he understood this because, you know, they recruited Boris Johnson to the Vote Leave campaign to be that charismatic figurehead.
Yeah.
So I thought that he must have understood this at some point, but I don't know. I don't even know. I mean, it's surely not going to get anywhere. It's probably just a grift somewhere. Yeah. There'll just be a grift in it somewhere, I suppose. But I can believe he doesn't like the fact that he was this super spad. You know, he had unprecedented security clearances for things he had no business having security clearances for. He was establishing himself as basically the power behind the throne. You know, he was going to be the real prime minister, and Boris Johnson would just lap up the attention and let him get away with it. And it didn't work out that way. And you know, he realizes presumably that he has no other route back, because I noticed when Dominic Cummings went out, he was, you know, in the COVID inquiry, was very praiseworthy about Michael Gove and Rishi Sunak, when we sort of know he doesn't like them either. They don't like anyone apart from the Mirror. Not the newspaper, you know, the thing that may or may not cast a reflection when he looks in it. But he's, you know, so he was very praiseworthy about them. And I thought that was him maintaining bridges for future leadership. But obviously Sunak's on his way out. Gove, God knows what he's just in a haze these days, coked up haze. So he's obviously realised there's no sensible route back into power via the Conservative Party. So I don't know, maybe he just wants to, you know, shout from the sidelines. He's basically going to be the political equivalent of a streaker at a cricket match, I think. Just wants the attention.
Yeah. Well, I did a picture. I was trying to find it, but it's not on me. It's too long ago that I posted, but I actually did a Photoshop picture of Cummings as Grima Wormtongue whispered into Boris Johnson's ear as King Theoden. But yes, because I had the same thought. Karen, I felt the danger that is a lot of people have turned away from the Tories because they're incompetent, not because they disagree with their policies. We need to find a way to change minds. I agree, but it's very difficult to change people's minds about anything. But where we could start is with press regulations, so they can't just print bullshit every day and completely get away with it. Yeah. Not just the press, actually. I mean, TV as well, where we've got the GB News has had 12 warnings now for breaching Ofcom regulations.
I mean, that's the thing, but there are regulations for broadcast media. There are none for print media, really.
Yeah, they regulate themselves.
Yeah.
It's like saying, you know, we need to stop locking up these drug dealers. We should just let them regulate themselves. Because they're best placed to know when one of them's been a bit naughty. Which has been quite trying. So do you think that this going back to the Labour launch yesterday, do you think it will have the effect that it's intended? Do you think we're going to see an uptick in the polls? Do you think it makes no difference?
I don't. I mean, the polls, it's hard to see how Labour can gain. I mean, at the moment, the polls, they've got a local election bounce. It's actually going to go down. No, I think it's just about shoring up that support. So, you know, avoiding, because quite often you might get into an election campaign and some people might then sort of change their mind a little bit who were wavering anyway. And some don't knows who go, oh, we'll vote for the incumbent. I think it's just about shoring up people's attitudes. If they're don't knows now, still being don't knows on the day and basically just not voting at all. If they're sort of thinking, well, you know, Labour have got to be better than this lot, then that people act on that. I think that's what it's about. And ultimately, as I say, if you look at these, if you think about the what the Tories are trying to say, it's a way of shooting them down. So Rishi Sunak likes to say he brought economic stability after Liz Truss. Labour, by phrasing it like deliver economic stability, they haven't said deliver economic growth, even though they then say the detailed grow our economy. But the specific wording is deliver economic stability, the implication being we don't have it now. So it's cutting Sunak's legs from under him there. You know, the cut NHS waiting times is obviously a no-brainer for any Labour Party going into an election. But that is something, again, which is Rishi Sunak. I mean, that's the thing. Like, how do the Conservatives do their own launch? At some point, they're going to have to do their own launch. How are they going to manage anything like this? If they come up with a 5-point plan, people just go, what about your last 5-point plan? How are those boats doing, Sunak? How's your NHS waiting list doing?
Yeah.
You know, all of these things, the economy, oh, you say it's growing, but it's not growing in my pocket, is it? You know, so all of these things are ultimately failures. So it's the same thing. Like Boris Johnson comes up with this cast iron guarantee at the front of the manifesto and then doesn't deliver them. Rishi Sunak, okay, he can whine he only had half a parliament before they booted him out, but still. Rishi Sunak does the same thing. Start of 2023, comes up with a 5-point people's priorities. And then the inflation one aside, which he had nothing to do with, but it doesn't matter. There's no point in arguing about that. That one aside, the rest of them aren't there. It's like he had stop the boats, all right, record numbers, well done. Cut NHS waiting lists, record numbers, well done. You know, cut national debt, get national debt falling. Yeah, the forecast is that debt is going to carry on rising for the next 5 years. So even into the next parliament, it's still rising. So yeah, you failed on that one. Grow the economy. We had a recession, mate. So it's all right going, oh, we've got this brilliant growth numbers now. Yes, because we were in a recession. It's like unbelievable. It's like saying, look how high I am when you stood on the ground because you were in a hole.
Yes. Yeah, indeed.
So
Indeed.
Like, and also Labour, it wasn't just the law, you know, it had this big launch. It was in Essex. Like normally you would think they'd hold it in somewhere like Liverpool, Labour stronghold, but no, they've actually gone into the Tory stronghold. They've gone into the blue.
That was a fantastic bit of trolling because in Essex there isn't a single Labour constituency; it's all Tory.
Yeah, exactly.
Every single constituency in Essex is Tory.
They've held their grand launch in the heart of Tory town. that is a massive mind screw, that. And then they had it wasn't just that they had all these shadow cabinet ministers making these speeches. They had other people as well who were talking about the same thing. You had the CEO of Boots, who was actually, we're not going to like this, he was actually, you know, that famous photo of the Bullingdon Club with Boris Johnson and David Cameron. Yeah. He was in that. He's in that. Anyway, you had him. You had also more palatable people as well, including that poor fella who's basically talking about the fact he's going to die, and maybe he wouldn't have done if we hadn't had a Tory government. It must have been very brave to do something like that.
It still would have been a terminal case of cancer, but he would have had a lot more time.
Potentially,
been caught sooner than it was, but he was waiting. But
it's a terrible thing to come up and stand in front of people and talk about. But nonetheless, Labour had all of these people describing how Labour's policies are meeting their approval. And the Conservatives cannot do anything like that. They will not be able to have a launch like that. What's his launch going to be about? What is they going to have? He can't even bang, like we might even think about, stop the boats and give me more money for emphasis. He can't even do that because after summer, right, I'll tell you, I don't know what's going to happen with the Rwanda plan. They're now talking about the fact that, maybe the first Rwanda flight will only have single figures on it, which is going to be vaguely pathetic, but it's not going to stop the boats, whatever they do. So after, you know, as soon as
there's more people coming on boats than ever. I mean, it's done the opposite of what they said they were going to do.
But I mean, it was anyway. But it doesn't matter. Just in terms of how it looks, there's no way of There's no way of the Rwanda plan being a win for him after summer. I don't see it, unless I'm being really stupid. I can't see it. How? Because ultimately, he said he needed this legislation. He's had his legislation now. And if he gets a flight to Rwanda, he's also had his flight to Rwanda. At that point, people, if he tries to blame anyone, people will say, Well, you had a flight to Rwanda. You can't really blame anyone, can you? You've got exactly what you wanted, exactly what you asked for. You said the boats would stop, and he said the boats would stop within a matter of days.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
they're not going to. They're not going to.
Yeah.
What else will he have? He'll have nothing. Nothing
you're
left.
Right. You're right. One Angry Pagan's just pointed out that Starmer reminds him of Giles from Buffy, and now I can't unsee it. It's Anthony Head from the Nescafe commercials, for those of you old enough to remember. Yes. Now I can't get it out of my head either. Also, Anthony Fisher, thank you so much for the £2 super chat. That's really kind. Sorry I'm late. I didn't get the notification. Oh, I should be writing a strongly worded letter to my member of parliament. Joanne Mason says, Hunt says Labour will put taxes up to fund their plans, yet Sunak keeps claiming they don't have any plans. Make your minds up, guys. And this is the big thing, isn't it? Every time someone says, Labour doesn't have any plans, you just go, here are the plans. So that's going to shut that up. And yeah, I think holding it down in Essex was a masterstroke, to be honest with you. And it is obvious that they are not trying to appeal to you and me. And I get it. I don't like it necessarily. I want them to offer me stuff that I want.
We do. We have. This is what I keep saying to these people. You could go down Labour's the policies on the website, and you will like most of them. It may some, in my case, I could say, they don't go far enough. They don't go far enough. No, but they are still vast improvements. So these people who say, well, where's our offer? It's like the standard offer is our offer. That's why we're Labour members. That's why I drove off to Rosington yesterday to basically stand in a car park in the pissing rain just to be part of a photo opportunity and get a free card and a flag. I didn't know I was getting the flag or the card, I have to say, but never mind.
Indeed.
But, it's because we already believe that the Labour's core offer is good. And I need people who don't believe that to vote Labour. So, of course, I need them to put in policies that appeal to them. I need to say to them, you've got my vote, go and get theirs.
Yeah. Purity Vendetta saying in the chat, without a commitment to begin the process of applying to rejoin the EU or join the EU, any talk of economic stability, let alone growth, is simply a pipe dream. My worry is this is just the beginning of the end for the UK. But I'll say to that, well, Labour are saying they are going to have closer ties with Europe and concentrate on trying to get better trade with Europe. So if you imagine it like we're on the end of January 2021. Well, 2021. No, sorry, December 2021. We were as far away from the EU as we're ever going to be. And since then, we're taking some baby steps back towards the EU and things like rejoining Horizon. But Labour will take us back into Erasmus. Labour will have regulatory alignment within the next parliament. I guarantee it. Well, I can't see them going on like this.
Well, the other thing is, there'll be more than that. I mean, look at this week. Okay, talking about the Horizon thing. So the original plan, remember, we didn't choose to move ourselves out of Horizon. It was basically because that was the EU because we were pissing about with the Northern Ireland Protocol, right? But at the time, the government said we want to be part of Euratom as well, like, fusion project stuff. And then when it came to it, Rishi Sunak's government said, oh, no, we're not that bothered about Euratom. It's a load of bollocks, as it turns out. We'll just have Horizon. Thank you very much. Now this week, the government's belly aching we're not part of these fusion projects. It's like, you didn't want to be part of Euratom. That's what it is. So, it's like they're still not happy. No, we don't want to be part of Euratom. What do you mean we can't join its projects?
God.
So and
it's like a child that's like, I'm not eating that. And you go, okay, well, you can't have anything to eat then. And they're like, I'm hungry. And I'm like, well, did you have the food? Anyway, Craig, thank you very much. People are fine paying tax if they see the benefit. Thank you for the super chat. And I think you're right to a certain extent. But we know from past experience,
too much at the moment.
That if you want a bunch of Tory voters to vote Tory, that one of the best ways to scare them is by saying, "Woo, if Labour get in, they're going to make you pay more tax." Woo, because I think the richer you get, the more you don't like paying tax. I mean, no one likes paying tax, but I think the more that they feel disgruntled that they made their own way in the world, and why should they pay for anyone else who's having a bit of misfortune? They change the tune when they start having a bit of misfortune themselves, but
Oh yeah, that's never their fault. I noticed Jeremy Hunt's been community noted now. Today, I released an analysis by independent civil servants. Apparently, I mean, they're independent when they want to be. Otherwise, they're woke warriors frustrating their plans. But these must be ones who don't wear rainbow lanyards. At the Treasury on Labour's plans for office that shows a 38 billion black hole in their plans, which can only be fixed by further tax rises, the equivalent of £2,100 per family. Community note: these opposition policy costings are widely acknowledged to be political because they are explicitly based on assumptions from special advisors. It is these political operatives' assumptions that drive the analysis rather than independent civil servants. That's exactly true. It's not an analysis of Labour's spending plans because Labour haven't given them their spending plans. It's Conservatives. It's what the Conservatives imagine are Labour's spending plans. That episode of Blackadder Goes Forth where they're supposed to be drawing the enemy trenches and it's too dangerous. He just tells George to use his imagination. And he puts elephants and stuff like that in it. That's what they've done here. They've imagined what they think Labour's spending plans are, and thrown in a few assumptions, as it says there, and told Treasury, which they shouldn't. Actually, they shouldn't do that. Treasury officials shouldn't be doing, because it's clearly political.
Yeah,
it's an obviously political exercise.
Yeah,
and you're not supposed to use government resources for that.
What do people think is more important, fixing the country or something much bigger, like joining the EU? This is from Duke Vengeance. I think that the joining the EU, rejoining the EU, is massively important, but I can't see it happening in the next Parliament. It is.
It's impossible. It has to be in steps, and I think for me the best route to it is Macron's plan for this sort of outer tier of membership, the economic but not political alignment, and then maybe we see the advantage in the political alignment.
Yeah. George says £2 super chat. Thank you very much. Oh, hang on, that was the wrong animation. That was the end thing. Thank you very much. If you don't like paying tax, then don't have money. There you go, Phil. That's the way to do it.
That's easy, isn't it? Yeah.
Just don't have money.
Yeah, tax record, whatever you like. Then 100% of nothing, still nothing.
Yeah. Benjamin said, just got an update. My great grandmother was in A&E for 5 hours before being seen. After thinking, after what looks to be a heart attack. 92-year-old grandmother, Benjamin's.
I mean, unfortunately, these things happen. There was someone
5 hours in A&E.
There was someone found. It was in the news. He was waiting for A&E for 12 hours. He's found dead under his coat. There's these stories, unfortunately, happen all the time. There's people dying in A&E waiting rooms, not because they've arrived in A&E and then just died there and then. They've been there for hours, and they've just died during long waits. Unfortunately, this is what the NHS is. This is the state of it now. The Conservatives
thanks to the Tories. Things. Can we qualify this saying thanks to the Tories? It didn't used to be this way.
No, it used to be the best healthcare system in the world in 2010. This is what they've done. They've done it from both ends, because they've removed the NHS's capacity at the same time as making people more ill.
Yeah.
So they've increased demand and reduced supply. So they've squeezed at both ends of the NHS.
We're talking about, we've got Vendetta and Purity Vendetta talking about, are you the same person? Just two different Vendettas. But yeah, talking about rejoining the EU. And I absolutely agree that the best thing that we can do right now would be to rejoin the EU. But it's just not, it's not feasible right now, politically feasible right now, for us to just be pulled back into it by Labour.
The thing is, from Labour's point of view, there's two problems with it. First of all, and I know Professor Curtis is saying, the vast majority of Labour supporters and voters, even now, even the ones that say they're going to vote now, are pro-EU. And that is absolutely true. But the ones who are anti-EU tend to have stronger views on it. And it's like Labour need all of those votes. And the other thing to think of, even if Labour said that, and some people will say, I know they can't do it, but can they really say it? Okay, the EU will say no. All it does is it invites the EU to say no, because until we have it politically settled in this country, that is one of the conditions really for applying. Other countries that apply, it's already politically settled. They know that a change of government isn't going to change that country's mind. So it's agreed across the political spectrum. And that is not the case at the moment. The Conservatives, who are the default government when Labour are not, are saying that if Labour were to make any moves, they would reverse them immediately.
Yeah,
The EU can't
exactly.
work on that basis.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, that's the real politic of this country at the moment. We have to wait until, I know it's going to sound awful, but a lot of the people who voted for Brexit are no longer with us.
I don't want to.
It's going to take another 10 years or so.
Yeah, I don't want to wait that long. I'd just rather the situation they took the toxicity out of it. I'd just rather, I would like to see over the next few years positive moves so that people could feel better about closer cooperation. Because what we've had is the Brexiteers claimed that we'd see all sorts of benefits when we left. We haven't. So now what we need to do is to show benefits as we move away from the hard Brexit. So as we get close to the EU, showing actually this is feeling better now, isn't it? So that's what we want. And then that builds up more support. And even if the number of people who are against the EU remain as they are, for at least for them to be quiet about it and to go, well, I don't like it, but I'm also not going to object to it at that point. And then there's all sorts of other things to consider that we're bringing into the mix anyway. Giving 16 and 17-year-olds the vote, that's a huge chunk of pro-EU voters that's going to be in the mix at the next election. If we can really push for EU citizens to get the vote in general elections, that would be another big chunk.
Yep.
And electoral reform is the biggest plum of all. All of these things change the political calculation.
Yeah. But I also, and I've said this before, I think that it should be, when we have a referendum to reunite with the EU, I think that it has to be 66%. I think we need a supermajority to say yes.
I mean, I don't, because the precedent is you don't.
You're talking about being politically settled, though. I mean, it was in 1975.
Yeah, but I mean, it's, I don't know.
Phil disagrees.
What I would say is that it should be written into law that there will be 2 referenda, so that it's not a blank check. Just as we shouldn't have given anyone a blank check to leave, just calm people down by saying this isn't a blank check to join under any circumstances, and just say this is the first referendum is only to start negotiations. It is not to join the EU.
Yeah.
Only when the final terms have been agreed would another referendum go out to see if we're happy with them. Yeah. Which then takes the sting out of the issue of currency, Schengen, or whatever the hell else might be part of it.
Yeah. Although at this point, I'll take it all. I will take it all.
I mean, I would, because the damage it's doing is immense.
Yeah. Haley is pointing out joining the EU is not a priority over fixing the country, and you could substitute joining the EU with proportional representation or with UBI or anything else that we will kind of like to see. But you're right.
The thing is, well, it's
got to take a second. It's got to take a step back compared with fixing the country, which
if we could join the EU, though, we would have a lot more money to invest in the country. So that's the argument. It's just it's not one of those things. It's not a choice of either or. There is no way to start the process of rejoining because we don't meet the requirements.
Yeah. Nightmare. But yeah, this is what the Tories have done to us. But yeah, I just to finish off, because it's just 1 minute past 2 now. Just like you were talking earlier about the Tories would need a miracle. I think we need a word, right, which means miracle, but it's like for the bad people, for something good to happen to a bad person, like the opposite of Schadenfreude, like taking pleasure from something bad happening to someone that you don't like. We need a word for it. We need that's what the Tories would need right now.
The Germans have probably got a word for it. You're onto the right lines with Freudenschade. Schadenfreude. Oh, I can't think of words. The Germans will have a word for it.
What possible anti-miracles, should we call them, could come along in the next sort of few months that'll
Nothing.
rescue the Tory.
Nothing at all.
Tories from this
I mean,
point.
Alex that was saying, someone said the only way for Labour to lose this now is Starmer kicks a puppet, and I said he'd have to kick it really hard. He'd have to actually kick it through a window or something.
Sorry, we just lost signal then. I'm sorry to everyone we just got disconnected for a moment. Phil was saying that when he was on the Max and Alex's show, he was saying the only way that Labour could lose is if Starmer kicked a dog, kicked a puppy.
A puppet. It would have to be good and hard. He would have to kick it really hard, splatter it on the window, and then write his own name in the dog's blood on the wall. That is the only way Labour are losing at this point.
Do you know what's really sad about that is if Donald Trump did that, all of his crazy supporters would say, the puppy had it coming.
Yeah.
Oh, it's what the puppy would have wanted.
Yeah.
That's how. I mean, at least I like to think, as crazy as politics in this country has been for the last 9 years, at least it hasn't been quite as crazy as in America, where half the population, half the voters in America are going to vote for a man who is a convicted sex offender.
Yeah.
I mean,
and this is the half of the country that reckon they're all moral and Christian as well. And it's like, is there a single commandment that he has not willingly shat on? I can't think of any, and I'm a Christian, right?
Yes.
It's absolutely abhorrent to me.
He is the Antichrist. He is the Antichrist, Phil. It's like everything in the Bible that says the Antichrist is like this. He's vain, boastful.
He is everything that certainly Jesus warned against.
Greedy,
he's everything.
Gluttonous. He is the 7 deadly sins.
He's actually a few things. He's a few things that even Jesus didn't think could exist in the human race. But
he is. And these Christians are like Christians. Can I say Christians with little, bunny ears out the side? Because they're not real Christians.
Not at all.
If Christ came back in the second coming, they would kill him again. They would brand him a woke agitator.
Oh yeah,
how dare you say you should be nice to people? They'll do it again.
And if he tried to kick him out, the money lenders out of the temple, they'd go mental.
Yeah, with a whip. Great days. And Stephanie Wilson says, I get my veggies and fruit from the local market. They are British grown produce, which is good. Also, Alec Barrett, thank you very much for I think it's going to be our last super chat of the afternoon. Thank you very much. Trump's followers think their oppositions are demons. Yeah, they do. It's a cult. I mean, it is the biggest cult on earth is Trump's New Age, Mooney, Branch Davidian, Jonestown lunatics. That's what they are. Personality cult. But I'm hoping he'll get a jail sentence for his crimes in the case that's before the court. Is an electoral interference case that's going on in America. They keep calling it a hush money case. Hush money isn't illegal.
No.
It's not illegal to give people money to shut them up. That's not the problem here. And the way it's been reported in the press, and the way he's been treated by the prosecution, by the judges, by the legal system, by the Supreme Court, they just absolutely mollycoddle him. And no one else, if their name was Donald Trump, would that trial have even lasted more than a few days? It would have been just cut and dry. Did you break the law? Yes, you did. Off to jail. Goodbye.
Yeah, it'd be quite amusing though to see this debate between Biden and Trump now if Trump has to turn up in an orange jumpsuit. with the tag around his ankle. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen though. I don't think he's going to go to jail. I doubt if he'll even be found guilty, to be honest with you. I think they'll just say, "Oh no, he's the most perfect man who ever lived. We'll let him off." I've got so little faith at the moment, and I keep getting told in the comments and by other people on this channel that he doesn't stand a chance in the next election. And I'm looking at the polls, going, "He does." There's really honestly. Does. No, all the actual polling analysts says no. I'm not saying we can say for certain not. There was some stuff coming out recently as well. It really is saying that he's not going to win. From the polling analysts I trust that are looking at it much more carefully than I am, because I'm not looking at it at all. That doesn't mean to say he can't. I mean, it's one of those things. It's a bit like very, very unlikely, but at the same time, the consequence is so severe.
That's what they said in 2016.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No one said that in 2016. They
Everyone said that it was very, very unlikely that he'd win in 2016. 2020 was different, but 2016, no one thought he was going to win.
Yeah, but that was too far out. I mean, at the time, it was like Brexit, a long way out as it was. People aren't going to vote to leave. But actually, when you looked at the polls as we got closer and closer to it, months out from it, people were saying, yeah, they're going to win.
Yeah, but on 538, the final tally was 91% chance of Hillary Clinton winning.
Yeah, but that's because
Trump winning.
Yeah, but that'll just be what's reported in the system. The ones I was watching were saying, "Oh, there's something frozen on my end."
Yeah, sorry, I've just lost connection again and it came back. Sorry about that. But yeah, should we just before we go? I'll probably play this later, but in the Labour social. But have you seen the clip of Suella Braverman trying to talk to the protesters in Oxford?
Yeah, I have.
It was
That's the best way to deal with her.
Comedy gold. She turns up with GB News and says, "Will you speak to me about why you're here?" And everyone just ignores her.
I was quite impressed with that. I thought that's the best way to deal with her. Just completely ignore her. I mean, it's not just her, GB News, the whole GB News thing. Honestly, it's the best way because what they want you to do is
Cambridge,
to get riled up.
Not Oxford, Cambridge. Sorry.
They want. They're much cleverer at Cambridge.
Oh, really?
Oxford's a good university. The problem with Oxford, it's where the idiots from posh families go. Because Oxford take in bright students as well as rich idiots.
Yeah.
Cambridge tend to just have more of the bright people. Even though they have a lot of posh people as well.
They do have a lot of posh
people. But they tend to have the brighter posh people.
The bright posh people.
Although I do often like rib Cambridge a little bit because I went to Manchester. At Manchester, we had Ernest Rutherford as a professor while he did all his important work. And then Cambridge poached him. But the most exciting thing he did at Cambridge was fall out of a tree and die.
Oh dear! Is that how Ernest Rutherford died?
A hernia fell out of a tree. I don't know what he was trying to do up there. Maybe he was trying to recreate Isaac Newton's experiments. But that is, he did all of his important work at Manchester. Then Cambridge poach him, and he gets an injury and dies.
Oh crikey! That's no good, is it?
I mean,
I thought he was at UMIST. He wasn't at Manchester University. He was at UMIST, wasn't he?
There's no such thing as UMIST then.
Yes, there was. UMIST predated. UMIST predated Manchester University.
I was at the Rutherford the Rutherford Lecture Theatre. The entire School of Physics is named after him. I mean, there's physicists died in stupider ways. You know, Pierre Curie had his anniversary of his birthday this week. He was the dumbest death ever for a physicist. Just walked into the road and got run over. In fact, he was in the habit of daydreaming so much, apparently, when news of his death came to his father, first thing his father said, bloody hell, what was he daydreaming about this time? So he did, just walks out in front of the road, splat.
Oh, Christopher Bowles just put in the chat that Cambridge is Braverman's old uni, which makes it even funnier. Right, come on, we better get off. Are you about tonight, Phil? Have you got?
I don't know. I am off. I'm out tonight, so I could be back in time for it. I've no idea. Don't know.
Okay, we will see. So, if you'd like to join us for the Labour Social, that starts at 9:00 tonight, and on Monday at 8:00, I'm doing a special edition of the agenda with Terry Christian, and we're going to be talking about private schools. So that'll be fun. So please stay tuned for that. And until next time, I'll say thank you very much for the chat. Thanks for the super chats. And give us a like on the way out. Please don't forget. And if you really enjoy this channel, please consider subscribing to the channel or what's the thing called? Patreon. Yeah, becoming a member and patron. God, I'm terrible at this. I need to have a little script to it now, like I say at the end of each show. Anyway, so until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.